Are we ready to begin? Just want to make sure that the TV is running or whatever we're recording on. Ready to go? Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Registration and Elections. It's October 14th, 10 a.m. We're going to have public comment, but it looks like we need to approve the agenda before we get to that. So,
Madam Chair, I make a motion we approve today's agenda.
Second.
okay, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Okay, the agenda is approved. If I could receive if someone could get the public comment cards. Do we have those? Because I'm new, I need a little direction. Is someone on the staff going to read the names and keep the time? Thank you. Before we get started with a public comment, let me just remind everybody, please turn your cell phones off, including my own, wherever I put it. Please turn your cell phones off so that we don't have any interruption during the meeting, and including us. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. When you hear time, please conclude your sentence, not your statement, your sentence at 2 minutes. We want to be respectful of everyone, so please no public response to anyone's comments. Just listen and absorb what they have to say. And I think that is it. The other thing I wanted to say, if someone has materially said what you would like to say, it would be wonderful if you would say ditto or truncate your remarks so that we can make sure we get everybody in here, because we have a 1-hour limit to our public comment. Thank you. And would someone tell me who is keeping the time? Is that you? Thank you. Mariska, Ms. Bodison's going to keep the time, so let her get settled. I'm going to read the first 3 names just so y'all can be getting ready as she's getting ready. Diane Chauffe, please forgive me if I've said your name wrong, Chauffe, Angie Thomas, and Laura Mantrone. Thank you. Ready? Okay. Diane Chauffe, please come up, state your name, and again, forgive me if I've mispronounced you. And for the record, do we need to have people stating their address, or just is the card enough? Do people need to state their address when they come up, or do we just, we'll use it from the card? Okay. You can come right up where the little glowing red microphone is. Good morning. And just pull that right towards your mouth. It'll move pretty freely.
Good morning. Is that better?
Yeah, get it right up there so we can hear you.
Good morning. I'm Diane Chauffe. I'm a resident of Fulton County, and just wanted to make a few public comments. This is my first time ever doing this, so I'm going to read from this paper. And I'm a volunteer with Fair Fight. It's critical that the Fulton County Board of Elections remains in control of our local elections. We should not and cannot have the state legislature take over when they don't like the election outcomes. I commend the board for work that has been done in providing us with early voting options. However, the blatant voter suppression laws of SB 202 is unconscionable. It limits the ability of the board to provide voter access. That is, the Fulton County can only have eight ballot drop boxes. We had 38. And the drop boxes are only available indoors at early voting locations and only available from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And only October 12th through October 29th, this election cycle. Before, as I just said, we had 38 ballot drop boxes. The drop boxes were available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there was continual video surveillance. And they were available until 7 p.m. Election day.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thanks.
Angie Thomas. Just while she's coming down, the next speaker will be Laura Mantrone, and the next one is Linda Kozarski. Ms. Thomas? Just get that microphone right in front and speak loudly. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Angie Thomas, a resident of Fulton County, and indeed this is my first time doing any of this as well. My main purpose today is to ask you to continue to have control of the elections from the Fulton County standpoint versus the state. So that's really the bottom line there. Thinking about what are some of the things that you like about the control and the decisions that you make within your board. Think about, why are you here? You have a proud history, a long history. I volunteered some last year with the voting and the recounting again, and did very good things. So I'm disappointed with, of course, Bill 202, where things were changed from that. So part of this, of course, is going to be communication to everybody to help people understand, and I believe you all as the local group can do this much better than the state. Think how you've helped Fulton County already and individuals. Think about how good it is, how good it feels to help somebody. What does that feel like? And you've done that, and I'm asking you to continue to do that from a local standpoint, and don't let it go to the state. The state leaders and state legislators have made some bad decisions, in my opinion, so I'm asking you to continue to be our leaders, our personal group to help us go forward. So just bottom line, yes, keep it local, help us with Fulton County, and help us know how we can help you. Like the review board that was created, if there's something we can do to tell them all the good things that you've done as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Laura Mantrone. Again, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing things. Next speaker after that will be Linda Kozarski, and after that, Bridget Thorne. If you could sort of make your way up, we'll make sure we get as many speakers in as we can within our time limit. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Laura Mantrone, and I've never done this before, so please excuse me if I stumble.
Just make sure that microphone is right in front of your mouth and speak
Okay.
loudly so we can hear.
All right, I'm really appalled at what's happening in the state of Georgia and Fulton County. We're regressing as a state. This is equivalent to losing a football game and then going home and changing the rules so that you have a better chance of winning the next time. I retired in June 2019 after 37 years as a special educator for DeKalb County Schools. And as a teacher, how can I honestly, recite the Pledge of Allegiance and say liberty and justice for all? We're going back where the only people who will be able to vote for are free white men who own land. And I know I'm being dramatic, but I really am disgusted at what's happening here in the state of Georgia. I really am appalled, and we're just regressing, and it's going to be, democracy is at stake, and what's happening with how you're changing the rules, shame, just shame on you all. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Kozarski is next. After that, Bridget Thorne. And after that, Amy Uphughes.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here reiterating some of the issues, but my firm piece is I'd like to see the Senate bill repealed. I think the legislatures acted selfishly. I feel like my rights have been taken away. My vote's sacred. I voted for 57 years. Never felt this way. Never. The last election was run beautifully, compliments the election board, but what happened afterward just stunned me. It's almost like it's a fascist move. That may sound, but my family comes from Germany and Hungary, and they suffered under some of these things. And this is just like, it feels like it's a slope that we're sliding down. And I guess it's your responsibility, but it's a tough duty to rectify this. And somehow, any way we can help with Fair Fight, we'd be happy to. I just don't know what kind of a world my 6-year-old grandson's going to inherit. I really don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Bridget Thorne. After her will be Amy Uphughes, and after her, Colleen Boyle. Thank you.
Hello, I'm a former precinct manager in a Dominion poll tech. During last month's commissioners meeting, Richard Barron mentioned that he had investigated my concerns of Mike Prendergast from the elections group printing random ballots in the warehouse late on Sunday night on November 1st. As a poll manager, I take an oath, and I swear that I'll report any potential fraudulent actions. I take that oath very seriously. As I drove home on that Sunday night, I was physically sick. It's not easy to come forward with such allegations. I had worked elections for 9 years, yet I didn't know what to do. I have a signed affidavit. If I perjure myself, if I've lied on that affidavit, it's a felony. I have received death threats because of my claims. This is not easy to come forward. So I come to you to see if you can get that investigation. I would love to see how that investigation was conducted. Perhaps it would be a good standard operating procedure for Fulton County elections that when they are investigating allegations of potential fraud, you actually talk to the person making those allegations. Perhaps you don't ignore their emails. Perhaps you don't immediately fire them. As a Fulton County citizen, I am simply trying to do the right thing. There was a former board member who tried to do the right thing as well. She saw years of poor management that caused long lines of voter suppression and lack of trust in our election process. She tried to do the right thing, and she voted to fire Richard Barron. Well, this did not sit well with LaWanna Hurd Tucker and the Fulton Democrat Party. According to Khadijah,
she said you did not have a conversation with them, and they did not want Richard Barron removed. You're the Democratic appointment to the Board of Registration and Elections, and you didn't even go to the people who appointed you.
So Vernetta was removed. On the other hand, Mr. Johnson was rewarded a cushy $80,000 a year House District office job. Ms. Woolard, we hope you will not simply do what Fair Fight wants you to do. Just do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Uphues.
My name is Amy, and I would like to voice my strong opposition to the installation of Kathy Woolard as the head of the Board of Registrations and Elections and demand a full forensic audit, an investigation, and accountability into the irregularities and fraud into the 2020 elections. We, the people of Fulton County, are tired of being ignored. I want to remind you of your mission statement, which is to ensure that registration and elections process is efficient and effectively provided to all eligible citizens of Fulton County. Well, you've failed your mission. Richard Barron continues working as elections director, even though he's not fit or qualified to hold that position. Why, just last week, 2 election workers were fired for shredding voter registrations. The citizens you work for have lost faith in you and the integrity of the elections you run here in Fulton County. We have demanded audits and investigations. Whistleblowers have been fired and ignored. You say you don't want partisanship, but you actively are working to create that environment. On its face, the 2020 Georgia election was unlawful because the Georgia legislature did not approve the changes in the election procedures made in the Raffensperger-Abrams consent agreement. This is well-established federal law that changes in an election for a federal office can only be done by state legislature. You knew full well of the impact this would have on the 2020 election run by you. Now we have Kathy Woolard as the head Board of Registrations and Elections who worked for Abrams as a lobbyist for Fair Fight until 3 weeks ago. There's no appearance of impartiality. It's become abundantly clear that you could care less about your mission or what the people you represent want or what is in the best interest for Fulton County. Who exactly are you representing? We, the people of Fulton County, continue to demand a full forensic audit and an investigation and accountability into the irregularities and fraud in our elections. Remember,
Thank you.
serve us, the citizens of Fulton County.
Thank you. Colleen Boyle is next. Colleen Boyle, Kim Goldsmith is after that, and Susan Voiles after that.
Hi, my name's Colleen Boyle. I have a history in the county of 36 years as a voter, voting in the same precinct. Also, because of my concerns about election-related issues, I served as a poll worker in the 2020 election in a different precinct than the one I voted. As a voter, I felt the county provided consistent and transparent services comparable to those of my work colleagues in surrounding counties of Cobb, Gwinnett, and Fayette counties. As a poll worker in the November 2020 election, I was impressed by the rigor of the election process and the oversight provided by the county and the quality and the integrity of those at my specific precinct in terms of facilitating the process at the poll site. I also, trying to better understand the process, volunteered to run the paper ballots at the end of the day and experienced a similar, organized, and transparent process. So in summary, both my experience as a voter as well as my experience as a poll worker were positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Goldsmith is next, Susan Voiles, and then Micah Wiedemeyer.
Yes, I'm Kim Goldsmith, and I have been a, Fulton County voter for nearly 50 years. And I want to commend the Fulton County Board of Elections for its history and current support of early voting and voting rights. This is a scary time around voter suppression. A lot of people didn't like the results of the election, so as someone else said, they want to change the rules and deprive each and every citizen of a vote. And they've talked about the drop boxes, but the hours have changed. Voting by mail is more difficult. Obviously, tactics to suppress each person's vote, to talk nothing about gerrymandering. So I commend what Fulton County does to try to protect each person's right And as some other people have said, if we can provide support as citizens, we're here to do that. And good luck to the new chair and everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Susan Boyles. After that, Micah Wiedemeyer, and then Milia Akouris.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. I'm Susan Boyles. I'm a resident of Sandy Springs in Fulton County. And I am aware that you have been emailed a packet by a group of people that asked me to speak today. And this presentation reflects a considerable amount of work by a group of small private citizens. These are the facts and data that Fulton County Elections provided with appropriate chain of custody. And you all are responsible for the safety and security of the elections here in Fulton County. Therefore, at a very minimum, we know there is enough evidence presented in the packet that you have to warrant further investigation by you, and we would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Micah Wiedemeyer, and after that, Milia Akouris.
Hi, my name is Micah Wiedemeyer. You may recognize this mask. This is my official Fulton County poll worker mask that I was given when I signed up to be a poll worker after the difficulties of the June primary. I'm very proud of the work that we did as poll workers in 2020 and 2021. We provided safe, efficient elections for Georgia voters. And I even volunteered to be a manager, and I'll be managing my precinct in November. And all that is to say why I'm incredibly saddened and frustrated by Senate Bill 202 and everything that's come with that, and the continuing hostility towards Fulton voters. We poll workers, we did a good job under difficult conditions, and all that we've been rewarded with is, from the state legislature, is suspicion and furthering of the big lie that we participated in a massive conspiracy to defraud Georgia voters. With this cynical partisan maneuvering, the state legislature has shown that it's unfit to manage the responsibility of Fulton elections, which is why the Fulton County Board of Elections must remain in control. A state takeover would put election controls in the hands of those who have shown, zero interest in supporting our hard work of running fair, efficient elections, and instead would simply use it as an opportunity to further disenfranchise Fulton voters. So Board of Elections, please continue to support us, the frontline poll workers, so that we can continue to support Fulton voters. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Milia Akouris.
Hi, first let me say that I echo the sentiments of the previous gentleman as a current manager at a precinct. My election integrity journey actually began here in 2018. Some of you may remember that's when I made my first public comment ever. I've since worked several elections and now serve as poll manager at Precinct 4V. Proudly serve. First, let me start with some positives. I'm very excited and optimistic about some of the process improvements I've heard about yesterday at my poll manager training. I'd like to give a shout out and a commendation to Alexandria Royale, my regional coordinator. She's been phenomenal to work with. Specifically about some process improvements, I'd like to call out the binder that was created. Johnny Harris and his team made a binder of all the documents, and I think that'll really help in the back of the house. And also the idea of putting multiple drop-off locations for poll managers. I think that'll really help with the process, as long as those in charge of these polling drop-off locations, precinct drop-offs, are well knowledgeable about the process in place. However, I'm disheartened about SB 202. Specifically, I have a lot of heartburn over the fact that we can't provision water for those who may be experiencing medical-related distress. As a first responder flight attendant, I have issue with that. Also, with the 8 drop-off locations others have mentioned, but I'd like to go a step further. I vote early all the time because of my poll worker responsibilities. Last year I walked, and this year I actually mapped all of the locations. If I had to take public transportations, it would take me at least 40 minutes to get to a drop-off location. And then if I do shift work, I might need to decide between being fired and voting. Also, based on my experience, often precinct information is not correct. I don't know who's at fault there, if it's Fulton County or the state. But denying voters who vote out of precinct before 5 p.m. or not counting their votes, regardless of circumstances, puts a suppressive burden on the voter for any error made by either Fulton County or the Secretary of State. It was explained to me that this might be an issue between the two systems, ElectionNet and poll pads, talking with one another, or it could be a problem with the data on My Georgia voter page. But regardless of these instances or circumstances, it's not the people's fault. Voters should not face the burden or the brunt of the burden, and it seems to me that time restriction flies in the face of the federal Help America Vote Act. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment. Thank you all for being here. We'll move now to the old business section of the agenda for the approval of the minutes for the September 9th meeting. I guess we'll just take them each separately. I have, I think, one change to the set. Pardon me?
I was about to say I have a note for the second.
Okay, I may be incorrect about the change that I have for the first one.
And the second, yeah, and there's, yeah.
Okay, on the September 9th meeting, I watched it on TV, and if you go to the business process review update section, I'm sorry, I don't know what page, oh, page 4. It says the motion was made by Mr. Johnson, seconded by Mrs. Crawford, and carried by a unanimous vote of 2-2. I think that should be a tie vote, is that right? And then is it carried or failed?
Failed.
Yeah.
Failed by a tie vote. Somebody want to make a
Madam
motion?
Chair, thank you for pointing that out also too, as I don't believe, unless I'm mistaken, it was not Chairman Wan.
Correct. Which leads me to the September 17th one. Yes, the same thing. At the end, it says adjournment. Chairman Wan entertained a motion, and Vice Chair Nuridan seconded the motion. Now, I'm sure I made the motion to go home, but I can't remember who seconded, and.
So we had a couple of people who weren't here.
Exactly. Yeah, it was the three of us.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we need to make separate motions for those, or does somebody want to make a motion for each of those, or how do y'all handle that?
Madam Chair, I make a motion, we correct both of the meeting documents.
As indicated, the corrections would be on page 4, failed by a tie vote of 2-2, and then correcting the attendance to reflect that Dr. Ruth presided over one of the meeting, at least one of them, right? Both of them. No, one of them. I presided over the second one.
And the seconded.
Okay.
Crawford. And I seconded.
Mr. Johnson seconded that motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There are none. Carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Monthly operations report. Mr. Barron, would you like to give us the update on the elections?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'll begin with the operations report, and I've also, the update on the elections, I will do along inside the operations report, add some additional information at the end. I think Brenda has a handout for you as well. And then if you have any specific questions to parts of the operations report, either staff or I can answer those questions. CES completed building the ballots for the municipal election. The proofs were forwarded to the municipalities and the attorneys of the T-Splost, E-Splost, and the City of Atlanta homestead exemption for proofing and approval. All of those edits were forwarded to Center for Election Systems for correction, and then those were sent on to the ballot printing vendor. We don't have any new polling locations or polling location changes to date. The total election day locations for this election, 257. The polling place signs have been drafted and will be posted in compliance with the new SB 202 guidelines on October 22nd or 26th. They will be placed. There will be a QR code on the signs that directs them to the new location. We will have a total of 9 check-in locations to expedite the check-in process. Approximately 25 to 35 poll workers will be at each location, depending upon the size of the check-in location. We've had one Zoom meeting with the managers and an in-person training as well. There will be another one later this month for the managers, and an additional one for some of the scanning clerks that will be working at the check-in sites. Human Resources Department is assigning Fulton County employees to serve as on-call check-in clerk reserves, a total of 10 for each site. Advanced voting has training concluded, and advanced voting started on Tuesday. Through the first 2 days, we've had 5,834 people vote countywide. With regard to the absentee ballot drop boxes, those couriers have been recruited and are on board and working. With regard to the absentee ballot drop boxes, we have 8 now rather than the 38 we had last year. They are open 9 to 6 at the 8 locations that we have around spread across the county. Those 8 locations are Adams Park Library, Alpharetta Branch Library, Buckhead Library, C.T. Martin Recreation Center, East Roswell Branch Library, New Beginning Senior Center, Sandy Springs Library, and the Wolf Creek Library. So those are open 9 to 6 until October 29th. After that, anyone can return their absentee ballot either to our office here in this building or to the north or south annexes, one of those, or they can drop it into the mail and return them by USPS. Those have to be returned to us by November 2nd. For voters in the city of Atlanta, those ballots can be returned by 8 p.m. For voters that are outside the city of Atlanta, that's 7 p.m. City of Atlanta has different voting hours. This election is from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The rest of the county is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We have worked with the communications department to rebrand all advanced voting and election day training materials and presentations to include training videos regarding form completion and customer service video. The refresher training videos have been posted. The poll worker manual will be posted on the poll worker training registration site for review. Logic and accuracy testing is being conducted at the Election Preparation Center and Hapeville warehouses, and that is underway for Election Day. There are the numbers that we have here for poll worker recruitment were as of early October. We can get you more up-to-date numbers. I think Johnny and Xavier are in training this morning unless they have I think they have the updated numbers for us. With regard to the registration division, total number of voter registration applications we've received in 2021 is 72,331. We received 8,224 voter registration applications in September. You can see historically that these numbers are way down. They're probably at 2015 levels. There was a change made with DDS in February of 2016 that everyone that visited DDS would generate an application. So it really allowed us to keep our voter registration rolls up to date. Something has changed this year. The numbers have dropped to pre-February 2016 levels. As you can see, 2019 is a similar year. There were 45,476 voter registration applications in September of 2019. We only received 8,224 this month. And this is the lowest since 2017 when there were 23,361. We have 851,723 voters in Fulton County. 794,703 of those are active. 57,171 are inactive. Pursuant to OCGA 21-234, No contact means that a voter has not filed an updated voter registration card, changed their name or address, signed a petition, signed a voter certificate, submitted an absentee ballot application, voted an absentee ballot, or confirmed their information with the county elections office. The Secretary of State's office in the first 6 months of each odd-numbered year identifies electors who have not made contact during the preceding 5 calendar years and identified electors who were not identified during the national change of address process. The total number of Fulton County voters who received a confirmation notice was 32,640. Voters were given 30 days to respond to the notice. If they failed to respond to the notice in a timely manner, their status was automatically changed to inactive on September 13th. Notices were originally mailed on August 2nd. The total number of voter statuses changed to inactive was 32,109. The total number of voters that remained active out of that was 531. The registration division training session, the registration team went to Gwinnett County Board of Elections on Friday, October 1st, and received training on redistricting and the new absentee ballot envelope and other updates from the Secretary of State's office. Also, we conducted training for the call center staff on Wednesday, February 29th. We have a total of 12 permanent employees or 10 actually now, permanent employees in the voter registration office, 1 manager and 1 chief. We have 5 vacant positions as registration officer. 3 members of the registration officer team moved over to the new absentee ballot division. So that is why there are a number of registration officer positions open. The process of hosting and training deputy registrars has moved from under the umbrella of the voter registration division to under voter education and outreach division. Moving on to the administrative division. So as I said earlier, we have 5 existing positions for registration officer. The new registration chief, who I'd like to introduce right now, is Holly Smith, and she's back here. She gave you the handout on the inactive breakdown. She's been on board since September 15th, correct? Yes, September 15th. She came to us from the Georgia Transparency and Campaign Finance Commission, and before that she was with the Secretary of State's office. We have, in the absentee division, we have the new absentee manager, who we introduced last month, Mariska Bodison. We also have, we are interviewing for the absentee supervisor position, and we have selected 3 of the 4 absentee officers that are working there. Financial systems manager, we have made a selection and an offer, and are negotiating the terms of that right now. So that person will hopefully be on board in mid-November. Voter education manager position has been accepted, and that individual will be starting shortly. The information systems manager position was also filled, as it was a promotion within the department. We had our budget hearing yesterday, and I think Brenda has a handout for you on what was presented. The operations budget reflects that the same budget amount as 2021. We did submit for some capital projects because we need certain vehicles, the box truck with lift, cargo vans, and 2 passenger cars and SUVs for all the transport that we do. Enhancements requested for 13 new positions, new equipment, forklift, and scanners. And we also asked for increases in the hospitality budget and travel and training due to the number of staff that we have. Our travel and training budget was, when I arrived here in 2013, we only had 18 staff, and it had been the same until we put in a request this year, because we now have 44 employees, and if we get the 13 new positions, we'll be up to 57. We also had to request annual maintenance list of existing and new annual warranties, licenses, and fees in that. With regard to voter education and outreach, the VEO lead trainer, Kelvin Jones, has been meeting with the VEO team on a consistent basis. We're developing a diversity project to make sure we're being inclusive as possible, and we are working on a major initiative with the Carter Center, and I'm sure Patrick can give you details on that. These initiatives are just a couple of the projects we're working on. As you can see on the next page, page 9, on the monthly operations report, that we attended 11 events last month in September, that division, the VEO team. We also, and I will get Mariska probably has the updated numbers, but the absentee by mail statistics as of when we prepared this report was 2,324 processed, 149 rejected, 82 duplicate applications for a total of 2,555. We also brought on board 10 supplemental staff on October 4th to work on absentee by mail. And I talked about the drop boxes already. We still need to hire the absentee supervisor and one other absentee officer. One thing I want to bring up is very important for voters to know, and there is a new provision in SB 202. Under that law, any provisional ballot cast by a voter in the wrong precinct will only count if it is cast after 5 p.m. This resulted, SB 202 changed OCGA 212418. Voters who go to the wrong precinct before 5 p.m. will be directed to their correct precinct. In the past, if somebody voted out of precinct, we would remake the ballot and count what was in common between where they voted and where they are registered. And now, before 5, if somebody insists on voting a provisional ballot out of precinct, those ballots will not count. So that's why it's more important than ever for voters to check their correct precinct before going to the polls on Election Day. They can go to the Georgia My Voter page to get their up-to-date polling place. And then I also mentioned the absentee ballot drop boxes, but I think it's worth mentioning again. There are only those 8. They are available from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. from October 12th through October 29th. They will not be accessible to voters after October 29th or outside of those hours of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So absentee ballots have to either be returned by USPS or they can be dropped off at one of our 3 offices. Early voting is 9 to 6 every day through October 29th. We began mailing absentee by mail ballots on October 12th. That's the first day we were able to do that. And the last day we can receive absentee by mail applications is next Friday, which is October 22nd. As I said earlier, absentee ballots must be in by November 2nd at 8 p.m. for City of Atlanta voters and 7 p.m. for voters outside of the City of Atlanta. And I believe that is it, and then the staff and I can take questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Why don't I just start with Mr. Johnson, and we'll just kind of work our way down, if that's okay.
I'll be short. Thank you for the report. A couple things, just for clarity, because as I called you the other day, we got a couple calls from Palmetto about the issue with city versus county. City versus county. Can you kind of explain just for listeners exactly how that process is, just so people know and are aware?
Yes, in Palmetto and in Mountain Park, well, in Palmetto in particular, because there are actually 2 early voting sites in the city of Palmetto. There's one for the county, and it is at the library, and it has the E-Splost and the T-Splost on it. Voters, because Palmetto's conducting their own election, they have voters that also, if they want to vote in the city election, they go to the city hall. And we have a sign that's posted, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so we have a sign up, but voters in Palmetto have to go to 2 different locations to vote. If they want to vote on the county, T-Splost and East-Splost, they have to go to the library. Voting for the city, they have to go to City Hall.
I just want to make sure that's clear for some people, because I got very unique phone calls about it, not realizing that they were there. And some people actually went to Coweta County thinking that they were supposed to vote for the city elections there, or at least 2 people did. So I just want to make sure of that.
And because Palmetto is also in Coweta County.
Right. Yeah. It's split between the 2 counties, but the election is in Fulton County at the city hall. But a person thought they lived in the Coweta, one person at least lived in Coweta County, came to the library and was told they couldn't vote because they lived in Coweta County, but not told to go to City Hall to vote. So I just want to make sure.
Right. Let me interrupt. For these counties, because they're split, these particular precincts reside in 2 different counties. That's why they run their own municipal election. So if you live in Coweta, you would go to Coweta to vote for their county election. Go to Palmetto Library to vote for the for Fulton County election. But both of them both counties would go to Palmetto City Hall to vote for the municipal. They have to do that because of the different county questions on the ballot. So they can't combine it for the municipal.
Right, okay. Second, I've seen that the United States Post Office is having a structured slowdown on the mail. Now, from my understanding, it's primarily mail that's going from state to state or going long distances. And I'm told that it shouldn't be a problem for local municipalities or, local mail. However, there's some concern that after the news reported it the other day, will that affect elections? Has anybody in the office confirmed with the post office that whether it will or won't, just so voters are informed as to whether or not they should try to make it to a drop box for absentee, or would it still be okay to put it in the mail?
Yeah, I read that article, and I guess we have a USPS liaison, and I can have Mariska contact her. It didn't seem like it was going to affect local mail, but what we've found, even before this came out, is that it can we've seen ballots take up to 9 days to get around the county. So the drop boxes were very helpful for people as a vehicle for returning those. But I think with the 11-day, we can only accept applications through the 22nd. So after that, we'll mail all those ballots out, and hopefully they'll get out and have enough time to get them back, unless they want to. On the weekend before, they can return them to us. But we'll check on the USPS to see if it's going to affect the absentee by mail.
Okay, and lastly, Fairburn. Obviously, there were several elected officials from Fairburn that called about the things that were going on there. That has been taken care of?
Yes, I spoke to Mayor Hurst, and that's all been straightened out, yes.
Okay, that's it for me for now.
Thank you. Mr. Wingate?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director, real quickly here, did we hold 2 mock elections?
There was last week, Sharon held what she termed it a mock election, but essentially she just brought in all the early voting workers, had them, some of them acted as voters, some of them worked, and so that was a mock election for early voting workers. The other one is the WDS inventory system. And
Yes, that was conducted. It was a scan to make sure that everything is received on the inventory system so we can get arrival times on election day when the runners and the poll managers come to the check-in site. So that was conducted.
Okay.
And then we've just received the scanners too for the WDS system, so.
Were those the ones that I think was reported were borrowed from Gwinnett County?
No, these are hand scanners for the for the inventory system.
For the okay.
Yes.
While we're on that subject, what is the line on this borrowing of the scanners? So IPC or whatever they were from Gwinnett County?
Yeah, Patrick spoke with Gwinnett County about this. So.
Okay.
So that was to make sure that we had adequate equipment coverage due to the Fairburn challenge, the issue that arose with us having to place extra equipment specifically for the Fairburn ballot. So in order to make sure that we're covered coming up for the November election day, we needed to ask for a loan for extra equipment and I just reached out to Gwinnett.
Do we, is there a cost to the county
No,
for
sir.
that? It's just a lend process in
Correct.
return?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Something clear up for me, under new SB 202, at the drop boxes, we no longer are required to have security cameras 24/7. Is that correct?
No, we have a person that's monitoring the drop. We have to have a person that monitors them during the day.
Okay, so.
There are
at
no more
night,
cameras because they've been moved inside the polling places. I mean, we could have cameras, but at this point, it's the expense of doing that when you have to have somebody sitting by it anyway is.
So not during the closing of these locations, then there is no security apparatus then during those hours. Is that a correct statement?
What? I can't hear.
I'm sorry. For the libraries that we currently utilize advanced voting, we actually have cameras in those rooms. They're just part of the building itself, so there is coverage.
Oh.
It's not required by the SOS. The SOS is requiring a person be at the box during voting hours. But for the county itself, for our county buildings, there are cameras on the boxes as well.
Okay. So,
But they aren't like the ones before were placed right above the box so that you could see directly down to it. These ones, if they're there, they're just in the room somewhere.
okay, so,
And they aren't monitored. Like the old ones, there was actually a police officer that was monitoring all those cameras on the boxes before. We don't have.
you don't have that
No.
facility any longer?
No.
Okay, on any of it. So has you had any concern that there could be a security breach on any of that, even though supposedly they're securely in a position where they shouldn't be tampered with, or somebody can stick whatever in them?
No.
Because
I mean,
if they're unattended, it just seems to me on a 24/7 basis, obviously there's some exposure there.
Well, and they're emptied at the end of the day, and then they're inaccessible until the next morning. So, I think at that point, they're locked up and secured at the end of the night.
Okay. What time are the boxes being?
After the polls close, that's when we service them, yes.
And there is
Nadine
there's chain of custody documentation that is
Yes.
going to be secured this time so that it can be reviewed?
Yes, and just to add that the part of the SBO2 rules that the advanced voting manager has to confirm every morning that the box is empty. They have to confirm it's empty in the morning and empty in the evening, and that's part of the chain of custody as well.
Okay, all right, thank you, Nadine. I'm trying to move this quickly as I can, sorry, but I could drive all the way down here. You reported 32,109 that of the, what do we call them, the no contacts. Have they now been moved to inactive in terms of our database? So
Yes.
if we move 32,109 from that activity, we now have 57,171 inactives.
Yes.
It seems like that, and I have to go back and look, it just seemed like that number would have been higher on inactives by just adding 32,000.
Well, our inactive numbers were actually historically at low before this and the NCOA and the no contact this summer that was done. We were at the lowest point of inactives. I think I went back 20 years and I hadn't seen it that low.
Okay, so the 57,171, you're that's the affirmed number right now
Yes.
of inactives, okay. How many, to date, how many absentee by mail ballots have been mailed?
Mariska?
4,508.
I'm sorry, Mariska?
4,508.
Okay. How many,
Can we just verify that? I didn't, would you mind just pulling your mouse down
I
and saying
can't hear
that?
with these masks on.
4,508.
4,508, thank you.
4,508. So how many carryovers have we had for 2021? In other words, those that were going to be automatically mailed an absentee ballot.
So elderly or disabled?
I'm sorry?
Elderly and disabled? I'd have to get you that number, Mr. Wingrave.
Well, yeah, but there's also, from that, there's carryover. You sign.
The rollover list.
I carry
Yeah, we-
rollover, I'm sorry, rollover. That, if you don't have, yes.
No, I don't have that.
Well, because if I'm looking at this correctly, and please correct me if I'm not looking at it correctly, but you reported here that absentee by mail apps, you processed 2,324. Then the others, you had some rejected, some were dupes. But you've mailed 4,508.
Oh, this was as of October 4th. The number in the operations report was as of October 4th. The number she just gave you is as of this morning.
Yes.
The 4,508?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Again, I'm a reconciler. So how, if we have processed by what you've stated here, 2,324 absentee by mail applications, but we've mailed 4,508.
Well,
No.
you would have to update all of those numbers. Do you have all
Yeah.
4 of those numbers as of today that you could just?
Update what numbers?
The numbers that we gave in the operations report, this was as of October 4th. When this report was prepared October 4th. So the number that Mariska just gave you is
As of last
is
night.
as of this morning, October 14th.
So do you have an idea then what's current?
Of what?
I understand
what the
you're, okay, I
rollover is.
see, that's October 4th reporting. Do you know what it is as of today?
You're still asking about the rollover number?
Yeah, the apps that
Okay,
you've
I can
actually
provide that to you
processed.
after this meeting.
Well, so
can't.
I think what would be helpful is if we could get each of those 4 numbers as of today.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And what it's not, I call it, what is it? Rollover?
The rollover list was we would mail out applications to any voter that was 65 and older or disabled. We are not allowed to mail those out anymore.
Correct.
The SB 202 prohibited that.
From
Yeah, the
Continuing
county
to
can't
actively
mail
process the
any
rollover. Okay.
applications
Okay.
to them anymore,
Fine.
so.
How about Uokava? How many of,
There are no UOCAVA for municipal elections,
nothing?
no.
Okay.
If they're overseas, they just have to request it regular, and then we couldn't mail those until October 12th. So it's going to be pretty difficult for them to receive a ballot and return it in that amount of time.
Are you getting any electronically?
We have 18.
But we aren't
So none of that applies?
we aren't allowed to electronically send ballots overseas for this type of an election. So we have to mail it, and then they have to mail it back.
So there is no electronic commerce that's involved in a municipal election in Fulton?
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
There has to be it has have to be a federal office involved for that to happen.
Didn't know that. Okay, last question. Did you get the Sandy Springs ballot fixed?
That was just on, so Center for Election Systems, which is a state agency, they create our ballots.
Right.
They we asked them to create a composite ballot. The composite ballot, they won't recreate one for us. They said it's not required by law, so we won't create one for you. And they don't create a composite ballot. And so what we did was we asked External Affairs to create a composite ballot. So they don't have any source data. She just has to move all of that around and create graphically a ballot. And she put that one individual
Right.
on two different races. So all we did was we just pulled that composite ballot down, and if we'll make that correction. And the issue is that we have 35 sample ballots that we have to post in every early voting site, and finding the space. Most of those places won't let us put them up on the wall, so we were trying to save space by having a composite ballot. And with the previous voting system, they would create a composite ballot, but they won't do it for us anymore.
Okay, so if I'm a Sandy Springs voter, then I'm going to see that correct?
Yes, we just are using the 6 sample ballots for Sandy Springs rather than using that one composite ballot for the whole county.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I just have one question, and forgive me, I'm probably always asking the basics right now, but when you were talking about the August and September voter registration applications, and you were noting that the numbers were down so low, would you explain to me why that is? Or to the best of your knowledge?
We have asked the state, and we have several times, and we have not received an answer.
And did that drop in numbers start in August, or is that?
No, it's been this entire, I think it started in February, possibly. It started in March. Yeah, it's dropped significantly this entire year. So I think it used to be that DDS was an opt-in. You had to actually physically put on there that you wanted to register to vote. Then when the governor was the Secretary of State, I think he and DDS worked something out so that it was an opt-out. So all voters that went to DDS generated an application. Now, something has changed significantly so that we aren't getting an application for every single person that goes into DDS, but we've never been informed why that is.
And do these numbers reflect when it was the opt-out version or the opt-in version? I mean, like, if you went back to
If you go back to February 2016, you'll see a big jump.
yeah.
And then if you go to March of this year, you'll see the drop off again.
So it looks like they've kind of reverted to the previous scenario. Okay, thank
Yes.
you. I appreciate that. That makes sense. Dr.
And I think the negative regarding that is if it's an opt-out, you're always getting updated information from the voters. This one, I think, I haven't updated my driver's license in a while, so I don't know if it's what the change is on that application. But I think now it's back to some sort of an opt-in scenario.
Okay, thank you.
Just that there was no announcement made, and we've asked.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Ruth?
Okay, great, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to revisit the absentee ballot on page 10 of the monthly report. Can you tell me when will you all be opening ballots? I know you haven't received them yet, but is there a date to start that process, and have you developed guidance around that?
Absolutely. We've submitted intent to process for the 18th, October 18th. That should be posted soon. October 18th.
Okay, and there'd be an intent to process, and that would be
Yes,
posted?
that was submitted to SOS.
Okay, great. And then what guidance have you thought about, the department thought through what guidance will be given to people being part of that process of seeing the opening of the ballots?
First and foremost, chain of custody.
Okay.
Just processes around that.
Okay,
Who
great.
has what in the processing of each ballot.
Okay, thank you. And I know that early voting started, which is great, and there have been a lot of successes we've heard. But I've also received a number of calls around issues with the BMDs not being powered up or having some struggles. And one, those are the machines, the ballot boxes, the ballot machines. As to whether or not there were any testing as far as the electrical capacity that was done. I think it was Alpharetta Library.
Yeah, they lost power.
They lost power, and Newtown lost power.
I think was that on Tuesday afternoon? Tuesday afternoon, Alpharetta Library lost power, and so they were on battery power. So those would have gone into some sort of, they go into a power saving mode. So they're gonna look like they're dark. And if Newtown also lost power, did they lose power? No. We didn't hear anything about Newtown losing power. We heard it was isolated.
It was a holdup with the, like you said, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something about they were delayed in trying to start the machines in the morning?
Yeah,
That
there was.
Newtown. They were talking through to someone at the office, talking through.
That was at 8:35
Yeah.
though, or 8, so that was before the polls opened.
Well,
The polls-
I know that Alpharetta opened late, I believe. They had some issues with equipment and opening late, no?
I don't know.
No
We didn't
sites
rec-
open. Like, we had a system specialist on duty for all 24 locations. And when Alpharetta had lost power, in reviewing with the manager, we had 4 units at 97% in battery, and we had 2 units at 100%.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I've also received from some poll workers still a few challenges with Happy Faces and the onboarding process, and that there are different processes, and it's not a streamlined process. And so I just wanted to see if you're hearing that, issues around that, Sharon, and whether or not there will be some conversation with Happy Faces around streamlining that as we get ready for November, or has everyone been onboarded already?
We have staff that did have some issues with onboarding and understanding the process. So they was directed to Happy Faces to go through that procedure. And any issues that Happy Faces have with staff, we will streamline that for the next election.
Okay, great, thank you. And I think those are all my questions right now.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Thank you. I believe everybody's answered all my questions, except for just one. I just want to double check on the, with the DDS. I'll double check with my sister, but I'm pretty sure they have to opt in because she opted in to register because she just moved here. And there was a problem with the registration getting over to you all. So I think we need to figure out what the problem is between DDS and us getting that information.
And it used to be too that we had a way to access the applications that we could go back and check something, but this was years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I don't think that's still available, but I can have Holly check into it.
Yeah, because I think Holly said she was going
But
to
I think-
reach out.
And when you do the
DDS to find out.
that opt-in process doesn't really allow for the voter registration database to be updated in the same way. And so it becomes less accurate, actually, when you do opt-in than when you have the opt-out.
Okay, okay. My next question is, you all, I know, have started sending out the absentee ballots, but the envelopes, when did you get the envelopes from the state?
That was on Thursday, correct? The new absentee ballot envelopes? Did we get them Friday? We got them Friday.
When do you normally get them ahead of an election? I mean, what's the timeline normally? I mean, that seems kind of late.
Right.
It was really late.
Yes, we usually order them weeks ahead of time. They were promised the week prior, that Friday, but they were delayed due to some issues the state had with their vendor.
Oh, okay.
So we got them last Friday, on the 8th.
We received them so late that we weren't able to work with the vendor to get a barcode onto them. And so we are stuffing them by hand rather than using our Blue Crest machine that does everything for you.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for that. I commend you for stuffing them by hand. That's a lot of work. But hopefully the state can get that fixed next time around. I know everyone's having issues with supply chain, but you know, that's kind of important to get those into you all the counties on time. The next thing is I want to just double check. According to SB 202, if you are over 65 or disabled and you have thought you have opted in to receive before a ballot sent to you automatically, that is no longer the case.
Yeah,
So-
what we used to do was within 6 months of the first election, we would mail an application to everyone over 65 and disabled that was in our database so that they would just get it ahead of time. But yeah, we're prohibited from doing that now.
So everyone over 65 and is disabled, they have to request an absentee
Yes,
ballot.
yes.
Okay, because I've had a lot of questions around that, and everybody's still thinking, well, no, I get one mailed to me, and it's like, no, I don't think you do. Once in a while, I wanted to double check so I can let people know.
Yeah, I spoke at an AARP event yesterday, and there were people that weren't aware of the SB 202.
Right, and they're assuming they're going to be getting an absentee ballot, so that's why, that's good. Thanks. I thank you for that clarification, and thank you for the report.
Welcome.
So,
Dr. Ruth?
Yes, I have one more question I forgot about. Can you talk a little bit more about the Carter Center, the diversity project, and what that entails?
Yes, ma'am. We're just partnering with the Carter Center to set up some voter education outreach opportunities for 2022. So we're confirming, well, we're actually waiting on the dates, the tentative dates for next year.
Ms. Wingate?
Thank you, Madam Chair. During this cycle, how many Dominion employees are on board?
We don't have any right now. We'll bring someone in for Election Day support, probably within the couple days before Election Day, and to be there on site to help in case anything happens with the server or anything like that if we have questions. But
So that will be just one person?
yes.
One person, okay. How many Happy Faces employees do we have during this cycle? And that would include, I guess, everybody that was recruited to poll.
Now, we'll have to get that number for you. I don't know how many we have right now.
Are there any no-ink employees?
No, but we will be bringing no-ink staff in to help prepare the poll pads for Election Day the week before the election.
About how many will that be, you think?
Last time we had 10, but 5. We're bringing in 5.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I think that concludes the questions that we have. Thank you for that. We'll move to new business, which appears to be the introduction of me. Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Willard. I'm the new chair. This isn't my first meeting because I got to break the ice with a special called meeting, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you. And I've met with everybody. Well, I'll be meeting with Mrs. Crawford after this meeting, and thank you for making me feel welcome, and sure do appreciate your guidance as I learn all the things you already know, and look forward to being a part of this team. If anyone would like to propose that we go into executive session for either a personnel matter or a legal matter, I'm here to entertain the motion now.
Madam Chair, I make a motion, we go into executive session.
For what purpose?
Pardon?
For what purpose? We have to state the
There are
purpose.
some personnel issues.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Dr. Ruth seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Do we need to add litigation if we add, just in the motion, if we ask a litigation question? So let's say personnel and litigation.
All right, let's see.
Is that
Let
fine?
me just dispense with it because we've had a second. So all those in favor of going into executive session for the purposes of discussing a personnel matter, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None.
I make a motion that we go into executive session to include litigation.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? None. So we will now go into executive session for the purposes of hearing a personnel matter and litigation update, and we will be back at the conclusion of that. Okay, we are back from our executive session. Can I have a motion to come out of executive session, please?
Motion to come out of executive session and return to regular session?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, there are none. We are now in general session, and unless there is further business, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn made,
Second.
seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. And we are adjourned. Thank you.